In this lesson, we're going to be learning about how to calculate and what is the area of a triangle. So for your do now, I actually had a few questions for you to confirm your understanding of the area of a parallelogram. And from our prior lessons and from the do now, you know that the area of a parallelogram is simply base times height. Okay, so the area of a parallelogram is simply base times height. And you say, Mr. Eckel, why are we still going over the area of a parallelogram when you just said that the lesson for today is area of a triangle? And here's the reason. If you think of a triangle as essentially one half of a parallelogram, then the area of a triangle is essentially one half the area of a parallelogram. Okay? So the area of a triangle is one half base times height. So let's calculate the area of this triangle. Are you with me? Follow along. The area again is one half base times height. So what's my base? The base is the bottom, typically, not always, but typically the bottom line. And in this case, it's 7 inches. So what's my height? My height starts at the base and runs vertically perpendicular with the base to the top. Okay? So the height here, if you can see it, is 6 inches, and my base is 7. So let's write our formula. 1 half base, 7 inches, times height, 6 inches. Are you with me? 1 half. Okay, now what I like to do is I like to start with the base and multiply it first with the height. And you say, Mr. Eckel, order of operations says that I should start from left to right, and you would be correct. But in this case, it's multiplication. So I would start with the whole numbers first, and then worry about, and then deal with the 1 half. So 7 times 6 is 42, and now be careful with the units of measurement. The units of measurement are inches times inches, which is inches squared, okay? So for area of a triangle, you want it in units squared, okay? That's important. Now, how do I deal with the 1 half of 42? I would take 1 half and then 42 over 1, and you could reduce fractions. 2 goes into 42, 21, and then that's just 21 over 1 equals 21. Or you could just simply take 42 and divide by 2, and you would still get 21, okay? So the final answer here is 21 inches squared. Remember the inches squared, okay? Okay, so before we move on and have you do your exercises for the day, I wanted to talk to you about two different types of geometry problems that you may run across, and that may not be so obvious how to find base and height, okay? When I was in school, when I was in high school, my math teacher didn't exactly explain how to always find the height and the base. So I want to give you and take the liberty now to show you what I figured out in school in terms of figuring out base and height. Are you with me? So let's look at this first example. Here's a triangle, and the vertical is 6 inches, the horizontal is 8, and it's 10 inches on the hypotenuse. We're going to calculate area, and as we discussed, area is 1 half base times height. So what's my base in this? My base, there's nothing at the bottom here, but believe it or not, the base, I would say, is 6 inches. But you say, Mr. Eckel, 6 inches looks like it's the height. Well, what I used and learned in school is I would look for the perpendiculars. I would look for the two perpendicular lines and look for the right angle, and here's the right angle. and I would mentally, visually flip the triangle from this on its side upwards. And in this case, the 6 inches would be here, and the height would be 8, and the longest side would be 10. Okay? And so we could calculate that formula. 1/2 base, 6 inches, times height, 8 inches. Now remember, this example is in inches, so we're going to reduce the fraction like before. We'll leave the 1/2 here. 6 times 8 is 48. And what's the unit of measurement? Inches squared. Remember the squared, it's units squared always. So if it says inches squared, if the triangle is in inches, it's inches squared. If it's in meters, it's meters squared. If the triangle's in centimeters, like the next one, it'll be centimeters squared, okay? And then we'll just take 48 and divide by 2 in this case to make it simple. And it comes out to 24 inches squared. So keep in mind that some geometry tests, including mine maybe, as well as some state exams, might flip the triangle in a different position where the base and the height might not always be obvious. So look for those perpendicular lines and look for that right angle, okay? And by the way, every example has to give you enough information for you to either directly see where the base and the height is, or enough information for you to calculate where the base and the height is. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to erase this one, and I want to show you another example. Here's an example, and let's erase this so we don't confuse anybody. Here's another triangle here, where the side is not exactly perpendicular and it's 9 centimeters. The hypotenuse is 17 centimeters. And the opposite side is 10 centimeters. So how are we going to calculate base times height? Well, first we have to find our base times height. And every example, like I said, is going to have to give you one of the sides or enough information for you to calculate the side. Fortunately enough, they've provided a right angle here, as evidenced by the square in the corner, and they're giving you the height. Okay? And you're saying, but Mr. Eckel, why isn't the longer side the height? I see 10 centimeters here. Why can't I use that for the height? In the other example, you used the horizontal side, right? Remember this one? I used the horizontal side as the height. How come this side? Well, here's the thing. This 10 centimeters doesn't stretch all the way down. This is an imaginary continuation, and you can't use this side as a height, okay? You have to have one side in full where you know the full distance. In this case, from the tip of this triangle to here, we know is for certain 8 centimeters. So 8 centimeters has to be the height. The base is then 10 centimeters, okay, which is the opposite side. Okay, are you with me? So this would be the base, and the 8 centimeters with the height. You don't have to worry about this imaginary extension of the triangle. This is only to show that right angle and to give you the reading of the height here of 8 centimeters, okay? So the base is only from here to here, which is 10 centimeters, 8 centimeters for the height, and we know that this is good because it's a right angle. And then we multiply all that by 1/2. So 1/2, 10 times 8 is 80, and what's the unit of measurement? Centimeters squared. Okay, and then we could just reduce this, multiply this. 80 times 1/2, or 80 divided by 2, is 40 centimeters squared. And that's how you calculate area of a triangle for different types of examples.